They say Meghan Markle's life was a fairy tale, right? Straight from high school into Hollywood glamour, then marrying into royalty. At least, that's the story we've all been fed for years. A polished timeline. Perfect. Flawless. But hold on, because Samantha Markle, Meghan's estranged sister, just ripped that fairy tale apart with a single claim that sent jaws dropping worldwide. According to Samantha, Meghan was married long before Trevor Engelson, long before her official first marriage. Back in 1995, Meghan already had a husband and even a child. Can you imagine? A secret teenage marriage, a hidden pregnancy, a chapter of Meghan's life erased so neatly that the world never saw it. It sounds like wild gossip, but when you actually trace Meghan's timeline, the so-called perfect biography starts to crack. And suddenly, Samantha's words don't feel like spite anymore. They feel like confirmation of something Meghan desperately wanted to keep locked away. Let's rewind to the year that never added up, 1994. Meghan graduates from Immaculate Heart High School in Los Angeles. Her classmates are buzzing about college, adventures abroad, and big new beginnings. Meghan's official story? She said she took a gap year before enrolling at Northwestern University in 1995. She even described it so casually, like she was out there traveling, soul-searching, living her best life before college. But here's the problem. No one can find proof. No exchange program photos, no overseas study documents, no host families who ever said, yes, Meghan stayed with us. Nothing. Just a 12-month black hole. A gap that fits perfectly with what Samantha Markle claims really went down. This wasn't some breezy gap year. This was the year Meghan Markle allegedly became a wife. Picture this. Summer of 1994, instead of boarding flights and collecting stamps in her passport, Meghan reportedly heads straight to Las Vegas. But forget the neon lights, casinos, and shows. She wasn't there to play tourist. According to whispers from people close to the Giuliano family, Meghan, barely 18, walked into a small, low-profile chapel just off the strip. No photographers, no classmates, no glitz. Just Meghan standing nervously next to Joe Giuliano, a teenage friend from Chicago with deep family ties. Two relatives allegedly witnessed it, and in less than half an hour, it was done. Meghan Markle was legally married. Think about it. The Duchess of Sussex, years before anyone knew her name, tying the knot in secret at 18. But here's the twist. Months later, the record of this marriage just vanishes. An annulment is filed, but instead of being left open like the thousands of other Vegas marriages gone wrong, Meghan's paperwork gets sealed, completely off limits. Officials won't confirm, won't deny. It's like it never happened. And that's the big question. If this was just a silly teenage mistake, why bury it so deep? Why erase it from history? To answer that, you've got to understand Joe Giuliano and his family. Unlike Meghan, Joe wasn't chasing stardom. He came from a traditional Italian-American family in Chicago. Private, protective, old school. They were the kind of family who kept things behind closed doors. They believed in loyalty, early marriage, raising children together, and protecting their own. Meghan, though, she was already talking about college, acting, and building her future in the spotlight. The Giulianos wanted privacy. Meghan wanted visibility. That clash alone was enough to spark tension. But what came next changed everything, because only a few months after that quiet Vegas wedding, Meghan's life reportedly flipped upside down. According to sources close to the Giulianos, Meghan found out she was pregnant, just 18, barely out of high school, and suddenly facing a decision that could shape her entire life. By mid-1995, a baby girl was allegedly born. And here's where it gets chilling. Instead of stepping into motherhood, Meghan's daughter becomes part of an arrangement. A deal. The Giuliano family offers to raise the child as their own. No adoption papers, no custody battles, no public records tying the little girl to Meghan Markle. On paper, it's as if she never existed. But inside the Giuliano home, there was a very real baby, a little girl they considered theirs. The end of Meghan's first marriage wasn't some dramatic public breakup. It wasn't screaming fights or tabloid headlines. No, it was an annulment, quiet, clean, calculated, and that annulment wasn't just about ending a teenage marriage, it was about erasing it. The file sealed, no explanation, no trace. Behind that locked record, an agreement was struck. Meghan would walk free to chase the future she wanted, while the Giulianos would take on the child. But there was one unbreakable rule: silence. No interviews, no acknowledgement. Meghan's name would never be linked to that baby girl. So while Meghan's public story paints her as a bright-eyed student heading off to Northwestern, behind the curtain, a whole different truth was playing out. Neighbors of the Giuliano family remember a baby girl in the house during those years. But she was never introduced as Meghan's daughter. Instead, the story was always that she was a relative's child. She never showed up in school announcements under Meghan's name. She never appeared in any official record that would tie her back to the Duchess-to-be. Her entire childhood was carefully crafted to appear ordinary, even though it was extraordinary. One relative, years later, is said to have whispered the haunting words, "She was Meghan's before she was ours." That line alone chills you to the bone because it wasn't gossip from strangers. It wasn't tabloid fantasy. These were quiet memories from people who had been inside that world. The child was real. The child existed. And Meghan, she was already walking away. By the fall of 1995, Meghan was settling into her dorm room at Northwestern University. She was making new friends, studying theater, and preparing for the spotlight she'd always dreamed of. And in doing so, she completely cut ties. The Giulianos never called, the baby girl never visited. That annulment wasn't just legal paperwork. It was Meghan Markle's reset button, a chance to start fresh, to reinvent herself, to erase an entire year of her life as if it had never happened. Meanwhile, Joe Giuliano remained part of the little girl's life. He didn't vanish. He stayed connected. But Meghan's break? It was absolute, clean, no looking back, no second chances. She stepped forward into the world, first as a student, then as an actress, and eventually as a duchess, carrying no visible trace of the life she left behind. Fast forward to today. Somewhere in Chicago, a woman in her late 20s lives a completely ordinary life. She goes to work, she visits her family, she blends into the city's rhythm. But here's the twist. Those who've seen her swear she carries Meghan's features. The same bone structure, the same eyes, a resemblance so undeniable it doesn't even need words. She has never been photographed with Meghan Markle. She has never been acknowledged publicly as Meghan's child. On paper, she is not Meghan's daughter, but by blood, she is the chapter Meghan left buried. And here's where the story takes its most haunting turn. That young woman may not even realize the full truth about who she is. For nearly 3 decades, she's been living in the shadows of someone else's silence. Think about that for a moment. If this was just a teenage mistake, why were the annulment records sealed tighter than a vault? If there was no child, why would the Giulianos raise a little girl in total secrecy, vowing never to mention Meghan's name? And most chilling of all, what happens if that daughter decides to step forward one day? This isn't some wild fan fiction cooked up online. This isn't a rumor passed around on forums. This is a story stitched together from sealed records, whispered accounts, and a child who exists outside the headlines but inside the truth. Back in that Vegas chapel 3 decades ago, Meghan thought she was making a decision that would fade into silence, but silence doesn't last forever. Meghan Markle built her reputation on reinvention, on transformation, on rewriting her destiny. But beneath it all lies a chapter she never wanted told. The teenage marriage, the annulment, and the daughter left behind. Samantha Markle may have torn open the curtain, but the real danger is what happens next. Because silence always breaks. And when it does, the story Meghan worked so hard to erase could be the very one that changes everything.